I had an opportunity to go to Kenya in the bush, tribal peoples, 13 languages coming through. It was an area where there wasn't medical care, there weren't jobs, there wasn't education. I don't know why I was going. I just knew I had to go. You wake up in the morning, you have a cup of coffee, you step outside, you're like, oh my gosh, look at those 3 elephants right there. Our dog just died. It looked like you had a really good battle with a leopard. That's when I stepped away, decided I'm gonna put $5,000 on a credit card. Wholesaling Inc. I heard Tom Kroll, the Bigger Pockets podcast, ringing the bell. And I'm like, I gotta do this. So my wife supported me. She said, all right, if you believe it. And so that's how I got involved, kind of took his advice. And I had like $60K in equity from my house, took out a home equity line. And I literally said, I'm burning the ships. There's no plan B. That's how I got into real estate.
What's up? Welcome back to DieHard Entrepreneur Stories. I am your host, Devin Ramos, and today I have a treat for you. I sat down with Jeremy Resmer. He is the owner of Myrtle Beach Home Buyers, several other companies. He's a true diehard entrepreneur. If you are the type of person that wants to live a life of doing epic things, then you're going to want to stick around and hear his story. Man, he shares some really incredible things, really crazy things. And my biggest takeaway from sitting down with him was, if you want to live a life of doing epic things, you need to have these epic experiences. And that comes from putting yourself and taking actions to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. He talks about how he walked in faith through several instances, putting himself in what I think the average person would consider a pretty uncomfortable position. But that allowed him to walk away with a life-changing experience over and over. And he's still doing it to this day. Towards the end, he shares where he's headed to now and some of those new ventures. There are wins, losses, struggles, and he drops some amazing tidbits. So without further ado, here's Jeremy. Jeremy, brother, welcome to the show.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah,
of course. So just a minute ago, we were talking, you were telling me about your basketball court and your pickleball court. Can you remind me, give me the background on that, why that was like a real meaningful thing for you?
I've got 4 kids and we love sports. I grew up just a sports junkie. I have 2 older brothers. So when other kids were out working, having a job, like from the moment I don't know. My parents will tell you I was born with a basketball in my hands, but I was playing sports all the time. I don't think I had a real job until after I, finally finished up college and finished up my basketball career. So, trying to enjoy those memories with my kids. You know what I mean? So, dude, yeah,
that's awesome. And I know that's not a cheap thing to do. I know we've talked about that's one of the things that you're just being diligent and continuing to build yourself and iterate and evolve as a human. It's allowed you to do some of these amazing things through the success that you've seen in business. And I know we were talking about sort of that component of it. And when we're back in Mexico, we're talking about like just the ability to do that is amazing. And so cool, dude. I love to see it coming together.
Yep. Same here. So do my kids. They're like, what the heck's going on right there?
When's it going to be done?
Yeah, exactly.
Love it, man. And yeah, you'd mentioned you played college ball. So I'm curious, it sounds like you've been a pretty driven person. I mean, I know you to be a driven person in business. I see more of that side of you than anything. But it sounds like you've been, what we call like driven your entire life, played college ball, I'm sure done several other things. Can you give me a little bit of your background of what led into like business and how, why are you not working a 9-to-5 like a normal person? Why are you building these companies and just, doing the things that you're doing right now?
Yeah. Well, it was weird because I went into college and I played basketball and I had to pick a career, and I was like, oh shoot, I think I want to I think I want to like go into the FBI. But then the school that I ended up going to didn't have a criminal justice. So I was like, well, I'm here to play basketball. So I'm like, I got to figure something out. So I'm like, all right, how about business? All right. Cause it's an engineering school. And I'm like, well, I'm definitely not doing that. So business it was. So what I come to realize pretty quickly was, man, I really loved all the different components. I ended up choosing finance as a like specialization, concentration, whatever. And so I got into like Warren Buffett. I got into like how are people that are really successful? Like, how do they think? How do they handle their finances? What do they do? And so instead of like, I went to class in college, but fortunately I had a lot of business teachers that went to noon ball, and noon ball was like the students and the faculty going and playing basketball at noon in the intramural. And so I didn't really get to play that until my season ended each year. But like a lot of the teachers were my teachers. So it was kind of interesting, but kind of a cool situation. So they liked us basketball guys. They came to our games. And, when we were out of town, they didn't give us a hard time. But what's funny is I really got into just business and leadership and real estate and finance. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something in this realm. And so I remember being on the road one time, and we were at a mall, and I just got roped into a bookstore, and I was like, just started looking at different books and just was like, oh my gosh. So I picked one up. It was a really good book. I don't even remember what it was, but that just hooked me. I'm like, wait a second, why am I at college reading these textbooks? I'm like, these are so boring and vague, and they don't even give you context. And here I am reading, leadership books or stories of people that were successful that went before me. And they're like, hey, this is what you should do. This is what you shouldn't do. But, oh, yeah, by the way, there's probably 25 ways that you could do this that could be successful, or that could also, kill your whole venture. So I'm like, holy crap, this is crazy. So I just started to I was on the road a lot, and, people were playing video games or doing schoolwork. And I'm like, man, I would definitely play a lot of Madden. But I also was like, all right, well, I'm going to do a lot of reading here too. And so I would just pick these books that I thought, man, if it has a good cover and it sucks me in, it's probably pretty good. And usually I can judge a book by its cover and by what I read in the first couple pages. So anyways, man, in college, I think I read 2 textbooks, maybe. And I read over 225 finance, business, leadership, real estate books. And so that was that kind of set my path. So even though I didn't always know a ton about the subject, I could kind of pull from all this information, this knowledge that I had in my brain. And so, yeah, that was that. So when I came out of college, I'm like, all right, I'm done with sports. I don't want to play basketball. I don't want to pursue that at any other level. I'm like, I was just done. I've done that my whole life. So I was ready to take on kind of that next challenge. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew it had something to do in business or real estate or finance or starting my own business. Right. So that's kind of how I got started.
Right. Yeah. That's really cool. I think it's interesting that you're talking about coming out of the university, and it wasn't like, oh, no, who am I going to work for? It's kind of like it sounds like you'd been empowered by these books and just all the knowledge that you'd picked up from those books. It just completely changed the way that you were thinking. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah. And then I got selected. I don't know how, but again, I think he, the guy that ran it, the professor, liked our basketball team, but there was a what they called applied portfolio management. So it was a senior level class, and they would interview you, and they selected between 6 and 8 finance students. And so we would actually get to manage around $1 million of the university endowment fund with the teacher's guidance. Yeah. So we would actually go and have to create a strategy, an asset allocation strategy, and then what sectors we were focusing on. And listen, I didn't know all the details, but I already been reading stuff about Warren Buffett and some of these other guys, Peter Fisher. And so when I was getting into this, I'm like, wait, this is really, really cool, because this is now applying what I've been reading about. Right. Yeah. And so we would have to come up with stock reports and our picks, and then our group would vote on those. And if if that, if your stock was selected, it'd be part of our portfolio. If not, then so be it. And then at the end of the year, there was like a competition, and we went to Dayton, Ohio. We got to compete against other schools around the country. And our year, we definitely didn't win it. I think the year before us, they were technically the winners, and that group got to ring the bell at the NASDAQ. So that was really cool. But the whole thing was a great experience. And we had a lot of speakers come in, and hedge fund managers and different people talk to us. And it was really cool. So what I actually did is I started immediately after college. I had like $1,000. I think my parents gave it to me, or it was some sort of like inheritance from my grandma passing, whatever it was. So I started managing my own stuff, and I went through that whole process. And so anyways, like that was just something that most people hadn't done. And so I got really proficient at picking stocks, which they tell you not to do. They tell you to diversify, but I'm like, Buffett says diversification is for people that don't know what they're doing. So I've always taken that with me. So, and I did pretty well at it. So I was like, all right, man, this is the direction I'm going to go. And that's what I thought I was going to do. I thought I was going to start a stock fund, or I was going to go that direction. And then lo and behold, it just didn't work out that way. And I had a little bit of a pivot of sorts, where I had an opportunity to go to Kenya. And like when I'm talking to Kenya, I'm talking, in the bush, National Geographic, tribal peoples, 13 languages coming through, people with their cattle and then at the same time, where I was at, there was only one American, and the American was 90 some years old. So it was working and living with a lot of Kenyans. And it was an area where there wasn't medical care, there weren't jobs, there wasn't education. And so this gentleman literally sold everything and moved there and started working with the Kenyans. And so, you wake up in the morning, you have a cup of coffee, you step outside, you're like, oh my gosh, look at those 3 elephants right there, right? Or holy crap, our dog just died, and it looked like it had a really good battle with a leopard, and the leopard got, the better of them. And that was that. And so like just crazy stories, or like we'd be out. So part of what I did is I'd be like out in the field. So part of my time I spent farming. So we were getting this whole farm planted, and just clearing out all the trees and all that. And then allowing people in the community to work, to be able to have food and different things like that. Anyways, so I spent a lot of time out there, and like, dude, there were times where you'd go out there and the baboons would come and just take all your corn when it was ready. And so we'd be out there trying to fight off baboons. It was crazy, dude.
Macking them with sticks and stuff.
Yep, exactly. But so that was an interesting kind of a pivot, because all my friends and family are like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing this? I'm like, I was like, I don't know, but I'm like, I have to do this. And in my soul, and I'm telling you, in my soul, like, people can say whatever they believe about God or higher power. I'm telling you, God was like, you need to go.
You need to do this.
Like, this is what you need to do. And it was affirmed multiple times. And things people said to me were things that I felt. So not to get all woo-woo and spiritual, but like legitimately, that's why I went. And and what's crazy about this is, so I was there 6 months. I thought I was planning on being there for a year. I said, hey, if I'm going to be here my whole life, I'll be here. But I'm like, I'm just going to follow however that goes. And so the Kenyan government, believe it or not, wouldn't renew my visa. So after 6 months, I actually went home. I made the decision. I said, hey, listen. And I said, hey, God, I'm like, if I'm meant to be here, you'll bring that through. If not, I'm leaving and I'm going home. And so I went home after 6 months. But fast forward, I served on the board for several years. This gentleman died around 95 or so. So when he passed away, another organization was taking over this little mission, this little property. And so there was a school and a medical clinic. Now today there's a hospital there, and the farm and all sorts of really cool things going on, where this is kind of a beacon of hope and light in the community, if you will, and a lot of activity, and a lot has happened in that area as a result of this, this mission, this gentleman who was just a visionary, and he was a warrior. And so I go back in 2008, and lo and behold, I get there. I meet another lady who is there on behalf of the other organization, and she was doing capacity building, leadership training, trying to help with that transition. Today I'm married to her, right? So
dude,
it was like, why am I going? I don't know why I was going. I just knew I had to go. And then it was profound in what happened immediately when I went back for those years. And that enough would have been alone, or that alone would have been enough of a reason.
Sure.
But then I ended up going back, and this little girl who there's these large thorns, she got a thorn in her foot. She had multiple surgeries. It wasn't fully removed. And my wife's like, I got to go to Nairobi. Well, Nairobi was like 4.5 hours from there. I'm like, you're not going by yourself. And so this girl is an orphan girl, didn't have the means or transportation. So my wife was going to take her. And literally, I didn't know my wife at the time. I'm just like, I know this path that you're going. I'll go. I'll make sure. Like I'll go with you. And so her and I ended up spending 5 days playing mom and dad essentially for this girl to get the medical care that she needed. And she was about to lose her leg because this thorn literally had swelled her leg up to double the size, and her foot, like the flesh was eating itself. So anyways, all that to say, like, dude, there's, I followed that path, and that was instrumental. And when I got back, before I even met my wife, my parents were like, hey, like, was this meaningful? I'm like, I can't explain it, but me going there, it was not contrived. It was not planned. It was something where it was very raw. It was very real. And there were times where we had a British military, a lorry. So we had that was donated. They had the British military was over there. I'm sorry. We paid it. We paid for it. And then the military actually restored it for us. So we went like 2 hours. We had to drive through this area and through this rugged terrain. And then we backed into a riverbed, and it was dry season. So we were in the riverbed and we're pulling dirt. So we have dirt because we were building at the time. And anyways, long story short, man, like we're going around a corner, me and another guy were walking around this riverbed. And I mean, it's like 15 or 20 feet high. All of a sudden we see 3 elephants, two big elephants and 1 baby come down into the riverbed. And they're like, dude, you gotta go, run. And so like just crazy stories like that are like, and the elephants are dangerous, man. They'll stomp you. So anyways, like there's that experience that I can't describe to anybody, but I had to do it. And it was transformative for me. And it showed like, dude, I can go in uncertain places and not know the outcome and not know why, but just trust and figure things out. And it was awesome. So,
man, it looks like that's crazy. It sounds like that primed you for business big time. Because I mean, you just said it. Like I can go places with uncertainty. I can go places with limited to no resources and I'll be okay. I'm curious, was this so this was a mission for like a church or a nonprofit, or just a guy that was like, hey, I'm going to go like plant some things in this town and do the Lord's work? Like, So basically he had been going, so his daughter had, believe it or not, his daughter, very wealthy, had a ranch in like a ranch, like, cattle ranch, but it was where all the wild animals are and all that. And so it was in that general area. So he and his wife had gone with his daughter several times. And while the daughter was bringing him there to kind of enjoy and have a vacation and whatnot, he and his wife saw the need of the people. They're like, man, these people are desperate. And there was nothing there. There were no jobs. There was nothing. And so people were just getting by and struggling. And there's joy in that, and there's beauty in some of that. But, the struggle where you're seeing people not even be able to exist, that part, he was like, I can't allow this to happen. So at 87 or 88 years old, him and his wife sold everything in the States. And as they were getting ready to move over there, his wife actually got really sick, so she had to stay behind. He comes back, his wife passes. Now he comes back to Kenya for good. And so he's in his late 80s. And this guy is still out working with everybody. First thing you do in Africa, in general, you build a wall, right? So he had some Kenyans, and they build a wall around the 20-acre compound. And so it wasn't religious from the standpoint of like, it wasn't with a church or an organization. It was very much, he invited me when he was home the summer before. He said, hey man, if you're interested, if you ever want to come, like, there's an opportunity here. And so I was like, yeah, and I kind of just played it off. The next year, I literally was like, I need to go. And so he came back, he had health problems, almost passed away. So me being able to go back with him, get him there, and then he continued to get better and better and improve. But there was a lot of work that needed to be done. And so it was, again, very much, he had that property, and then he donated the
purchased the land and had the building built for a church. That was the only church in that area. So anyways, yeah, that was a part of the process, but there was so much going on and he was just desperate to help these people that were struggling to survive. So that's how it came to be.
That's incredible. Wow. So you get back from Kenya, and then it sounds like you'd gone back years later or something like that, some time frame later. Where did business come into play? So at what point did you start your first like business venture, and what was it?
So I ended up when I came back from there, my parents had moved from Michigan. I'd lived in Michigan my whole life. My parents moved down to North Carolina, and I had a brother in Chicago, a brother in LA, and I'm like, man, I like that LA weather more than Chicago. So I literally moved out there. He had a 1-bedroom studio apartment in Hollywood, right off Hollywood Boulevard. If you've ever been there, it's very weird. Very weird.
It's very weird.
Very weird. And so we were right there by the Hotel Roosevelt, one block off, and it was wild. And so I slept on the couch.
I actually know exactly what you're talking about.
Wow. And it was a very dumpy place, and they have rent control. And I think my brother was paying like $700 a month to live there. Like,
that's insane.
It was crazy. So he's like, I can't give it up. And I'm like, dude, stop living broke. But I'm like, all right, I got to live broke with you. So I had nothing. I had no money. I came back from Kenya. So I'm like, well, shoot, I'm either going to live or I'm going to die. Right. So I got to figure this out. So first thing was like, okay, my brother had no computer and he was in the entertainment business and he was an editor. And so I'm like, bro, why don't we just get a Mac? He wanted a Mac. So I'm like, all right, fine, let's just do it. So we went in together and then I had no car. So I'm like, I got to get a car. I got to go on interviews. I got to figure out how I'm going to work, and then get a phone. So I'm like, I do all these things. I have no money, but I'm like, all right, whatever, we'll make it work. So, anyways, all to say, I was thinking, man, I'm going to go right into real estate or finance. That's what I was applying to. And then I saw this one job that was for a finance position for a small women's clothing company. So I go and meet, it was in Santa Monica at the time. So I go down and I meet with the company, the owner, the designer, all that. But the guy that ended up hooking me in he's a friend of mine. He was a business partner of mine. I didn't know it at the time, but he was in LA. He went to grad school to surf. He went to UCLA. Come to find out later on, he was the CFO of a $1 billion company at 28 years old. Well, I didn't know any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And his dad had done all the production for Nautica, Jabot, all these big brands in the 80s and 90s. He owned a factory in Palau. Well, he said, hey, man, I'll teach you how to run this business. He's like, you can do all the financial stuff. But we really hit it off. We were talking about all this other stuff besides women's clothing. So anyways, I'm like, all right, whatever. Like I did it because I had connection with this guy. And I'm like, this makes sense. Like I'm going to do this. So I started learning that business. And at the time, it was a boutique brand. We were selling high-end clothes to boutiques all over the country, Japan, all over the world, actually. And then like we'd see Halle Berry or Jessica Simpson or someone would wear the clothes and then boom, sales would rocket for that particular style. So I was downtown in LA dealing with Latinos and people from Vietnam, China, and people are always speaking all these crazy languages, right? That I don't understand. And they're talking about fabrics. I don't know anything about fabrics. And he's one of the owners of the company. He's like, hey man, I'm going to teach you. So he's like, I'll show you what I do, but he's like, I'll teach you how to do the financial piece and how to do all the planning and how we're going to grow this company. Well, come to find out, he had a major family emergency and he had to go. He had to go and take care of his family. And so he ended up leaving the company about 6 months later. And he goes, hey, bud, I told you I was going to teach you. Well, hey, you're now in charge of all of the manufacturing. So here I am trying to order fabrics for a whole line. And I'm trying to go and work with the factory that no one speaks English, really. I mean, one person essentially spoke English for me. And I'm going to pull off fabrics. I'm like, we need to do this, we need to do that. And it was crazy, man. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was still doing the financial piece. Well, sometime later, this same guy is like, hey, bud, I'm the CFO of a public company, it's a public company. We're going to relist on the NASDAQ. We're going to do all these really cool things. I want to bring you over here, work for me for two years or so, support all the VPs. You're going to share an office with me. And he goes, either go back to grad school or start a business. Well, I was literally working 100 hours a week for 2 years.
Wow.
And I kept on Sundays, and this guy taught me so much. He was like, he's a friend, but man, just a really, really good guy. He saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, that I didn't deserve. He put me in positions I didn't deserve. And so all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I jumped up like 3 levels. And, my peers were like, oh, well, I'm just doing this. And it just seemed like I kind of got lucky because I worked hard, but he allowed me to kind of jump several steps and see things in a business and support VPs where most people at 25 years old, 24 years old weren't doing that. So That was huge. And then he and I, after we had done this re-IPO, relist on the NASDAQ, all this, he's like, hey man, why don't we go start a business? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So we had been in the clothing realm together. And so I had this problem where as being an athlete, I wasn't a fat American. Well, I might be now, but I wasn't at the time. I mean, I was built well. And so I had broad shoulders, but I had a real thin waist. That was like a 32. Mm. And so I was broad. And so everything was either, it was really like this and it fit me right, or it fit me up here and it was like blown out and boxy.
Yeah.
And then with jeans, I couldn't get half the jeans that I would try on at the time on my legs. I'm like, dude, I can't even put these over my legs. So I'm like, hey, let's create a brand, because all the brands at the time were for women's clothing. Right. And so what would happen is they would be real popular with women. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, we got to create clothes for dudes too. Well, dude, It was like, no, man, our whole thing was like, get out of your girlfriend's closet. Stop wearing your girlfriend's clothes. We're guys. We wear our own brands. We don't need to, try too hard. We don't have all these crazy rivets on the butt, all this stuff. Right. So we're like, let's create something for guys. And it's a more of an American fit. And so we did that. So I moved to New York and I hired a designer and I started manufacturing. First, I started in Brazil and then Pakistan and Istanbul. And so what we did is we had denim, which was a really nice fitting denim. It was meant to be a high end. And then we also created shirts that were like, we created a fit that was a cut. So it was like a tailored look. And we were using stretchy fabrics when nobody was using those, only in women's clothes. So here I am. I'm a year into it. I took no salary. I'm 100K in debt. We went into a 90-day raise. We had 2 investors that were going to bring over 500 apiece, and then a third investor who was in from the beginning with us. And he said, "Hey, I'll bring another 200 if these guys come in." Okay, great. 1.2. I'll pay myself back. We're going to hit it big. And so we had 2 of the top sales reps we had just brought on. We had a top PR firm in Beverly Hills. Everything was clicking. And then boom, I think it was Bear Stearns or Lehman Brothers, one of the big investment banks in, I think, 07 or 08 collapses, right? So literally we're waiting for the bank wire to come through for both of these guys. And they're like, listen, sorry, we haven't responded back. Investment banks don't just go under. And that first one did. And they said, hey, this is going to be a shock to the economy. And they're like, we're already reallocating all of our finances. People aren't going to be spending money on jeans and all this. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was a shot to the gut. And like I had poured all this into it. We were working at the time to get into Macy's and Nordstrom's. And we were in boutiques. We had Arizona Cardinals and people in Washington, D.C. and in New York, pro athletes wearing our stuff. We were in negotiations talking with Tom Brady's agent. We're like, dude, if we get Brady, we're gone, dude. Like we're going to blow this thing up. So that's what I thought. Right. And so it worked out very, very differently. And so after all this happened, I mean, it was a matter of, like 4 weeks. And my business partner's like, what do you want to do, man? Do you want to keep going? And I'm like, because he was still working for this company, but he had also bought into another company. And he was like, he's very proficient. And he was kind of, working with me advising, but really I was managing the day-to-day stuff. And he was helping with the raise. But when all this happened, I'm like, no, man, I can't. I'm like, I gotta be able to pay my bills. Like I gotta be able to do something. So that was hard pill for me to swallow. And so I literally went and found a job. Like, I had to go to my dad. Actually, I had to go to my dad. I'm like, Dad, I can't make my rent this month. I'm like, I hate to ask you, but I'm like, could you help me out? I'm like, I'll pay you back. And I had creditors. We had stuff still being delivered. I had $5,000 I owed to UPS. I had, just a lot of bills that were piled up. And so I'm like, nope, I'm not going BK. I'm not doing it. I'm like, we'll close this thing down. But I'm like, so I called every single one of my creditors and I said, hey, listen, I can't pay you right now, but I'll commit to paying you off. Would you take a payment plan? And in fairness, they probably didn't have much of a choice because what are they going to say? I'm like, hey,
they're probably getting that from a lot of people at that time, huh?
Maybe, but they could have just been like, hey, what are you going to take me to court? And they're in Pakistan or Istanbul.
It's better than nothing. Yeah.
And so I just, I said, hey, listen, just let me honor, if you'll honor me in this way, I will pay you back. And so I did that. And then I met my wife not too long after that, probably within the next year. And so my wife took on that debt as well. Right.
Wow.
So, So there was a lot of different components. There's so much to the story and I'm probably spending too much time on it, but like that failure. So part of it was like, I didn't like at the time I felt like a failure, but today I don't feel like so much a failure, but dude, sometimes you can't control timing. Like you can only control what you control. And, and so it didn't work out, but it allowed me to grow and come from behind 100K in debt. And so my wife, she took that on and we paid it off. When we got together and got married, we committed to doing it and we paid it off in 18 months. And so my parents thought it was dealing drugs. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, hey, we're saving everything. I'm like, I'm committed to getting out of this. And so, from there I was working. Her and I moved to Colorado. And as soon as we paid off the debt, here's what's crazy. I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm done doing what I'm doing in the corporate. My wife had actually like 6 months earlier had left a really good medical job. So she now has to raise support. It's a support raised position. She's working in the ministry, sending teams overseas. And so that's the first one. Then we pay off all that debt. And I literally am like, all right, I'm stepping away. So I, at the time, was going and raising money in Colorado, LA, New York, all over the place, trying to recapitalize the company. And then I was just kind of burnt out from that. And I was like, you know what? I'm newly married. I'm working crazy hours. I don't see my wife. I'm traveling all the time. This is stupid. So we paid off all that debt. And my wife jumps from her job to do something she was passionate about. And then I said, screw it. I'll just figure something out. So I spent the next year consulting and had no idea what I was doing. But I'm like, hey, I'm of value to somebody. And so was able to just pay the bills. And we got pregnant, had our son. He ended up being like 7 or 8 weeks preemie. 10 weeks preemie. So we were in the hospital for 8 weeks with him and he came back with oxygen. So it was a crazy situation. I don't have a job and I'm like, okay, well, the consulting job ended up being a blessing for me. I'm working from the hospital sometime. Anyways, all that to say, man, like we went through all these different situations and finally I said, to my wife, I had a really good job opportunity and I turned it down. I'm like, it's not right. I'm like, I'm called to do something else right now. So I said no. And literally that same week, the same organization that my wife worked for, they called me up and said, hey, we have something for you. Do you want to oversee all of our projects internationally? Working with all of our teams. Some of it's working with pastors or churches. Some of it's working with NGOs. Some of it's working with teams. So I ended up traveling to Iraq. I ended up traveling to Cambodia, Haiti, Guatemala, all over the place, right? All over the world.
Wow.
And got to do some really, really cool things. So I did that for 5.5 years. And my wife and I went through an adoption process. We felt called to do that. And that process was supposed to be 9 months. It ended up being 5 years. And while I'm in this organization, this whole thing with ISIS happens, right? You know about that, being a military guy. So where our project was in Iraq wasn't far from, like Erbil, Dahuk. There's kind of that triangle there.
Yeah, where was it?
It was in Saran. So it was over the mountains. But a lot of people came over there.
Been there.
Yeah. So a lot of Kurdish region, right? So Saran. So our team was there and working with the local government. The government's like, dude, you got to do something. So we actually created micro camps. So we're like, we're not putting like all the big UN camps would come in and like people were confined to that gated area, right? And so the government said, we'll do something with you. We had an idea that, hey, we'll take these people, but we had Shubiks and we had Kurds and we had Yazidis and we had all these people, and none of them wanted to interact with each other because of cultural differences.
Yeah.
So we would have about 10 to 20 houses, and it was not gated. It was, hey, Shubiks, you'll be here. Yazidis, you'll be here. And then we took in a lot of the women who were in sex slavery. So nobody wanted to be, even their own people didn't want to be around them because of the stigma. So anyways, long story short, man, there's some crazy stuff. So I'm like traveling all over the world, seeing all these different ways that people are trying to help local populations do ministry, do life, right? And so that was incredible. That was really an incredible experience. And I ended up adopting, and my wife and I, so that whole ISIS thing takes place. So that becomes a priority for us. But then also Ebola kicks in. And the day before we're supposed to leave, there's an outbreak of Ebola in Congo. So we go to Congo. My family's like, dude, what are you doing? You're not going, right? I'm like, no, we're going. It's like 600 miles away. We'll be fine. So my wife and I go to Congo, and we find all this discrepancies and issues with our adoption. We have to work through a lot of crazy stuff, language barriers. But I'm serious, like so many ways, like, people came alongside us and helped us through that. So we were there for 2 years. It was a crazy, crazy story. A good story for another day. And when we came back from that, getting us to real estate, we come back from the Congo, and I just feel like, man, there's a lot of arrows that are being shot at me, leaving my family to go on the road, leaving my wife behind. Every time I'd leave, somebody would get sick or end up in the hospital. One time my wife goes to Atlanta and I go to Iraq, and she was on the highway on the hill, over a hill on 85 or whatever it was. And truck comes barreling over, lost its brakes, rear ends our van. And my kids are in the back. And so I'm in Iraq. That all happens. I don't find out till like 12 hours later when I can finally connect. And so like crazy stuff would happen. My wife and I were struggling. I wasn't making a lot of money in this venture. It was a labor of love, and I loved it. But like, I'm just like, I got to take care of my family. So that's when I stepped away, decided going to put $5,000 on a credit card. Wholesaling Inc. I heard Tom Kroll on the Bigger Pockets podcast ringing the bell. And I'm like, I got to do this. So my wife supported me. She said, all right, if you believe it. And so that's how I got involved, put $5,000 on the credit card, and then kind of took his advice. And I had like $60,000 in equity from my house, took out a home equity line. And I literally said, I'm burning the ships. There's no plan B. That's how I got into real estate.
Wow. Dude, incredible story you have here. And the one thing that I hear like through it all that just shines so bright to me, or the one thing I should say I see that just like shines so bright to me is you have this really incredible story. And it's because you continually put yourself in these positions, like you took this action. Like, if you weren't willing to say, hey, yeah, I'll come and help you in Kenya, which is, for the average person, like leaving the country that you to go, like, they just don't do that. But when you do that, you see what happens, right? You just off, like moving to LA with your brother, like it sounds like you were pretty stinking broke at that point.
I was.
Like with nothing, right? Like when you do that, like, or I should say, the experience you got is a byproduct of you doing that, right? And so to me, like what I hear from you is like, man, if you want to have epic stories, like you got to do epic stuff. And to do epic stuff, you got to be willing to put yourself in those positions. And man, I just hear that through like all the stuff that are all the stories that you shared here. And dude, I gotta ask, like, where did that come from? Is that like in your nature? Is that just how you're wired? Or did you ever have like any second thoughts or any like struggles? Like, man, should I do this? Should I not do this? I don't know. Like, tell me about that, man.
Yeah, man. I think I definitely, you're always second guessing things in life, I think, to some degree, right? But I think for me, this is crazy. This may not make any sense, but one thing that probably shaped a lot of me. And I kind of realize it now more as I'm older. When I was a kid, I'd go out and play basketball all day long, literally all day long. Yeah, I'd play the other sports too, and I'd play against older guys. So like I'd be good at football, and like I was good at sports generally. But I was like basketball, I would go for hours. When it was snowing, I would go and shoot hoops. And my mom even would say, "Man, you're just crazy. Like you did things other people wouldn't do." I'd go in my garage, I'd go dribble in my basement. Like I just was always doing it. I was intent to. I'd watch Allen Iverson or like the guys with the best crossover, the best moves. I would study them on TV. I would go and I would try to learn it, right? Try to master something. And so I don't, my friends didn't really do that. I just kind of did it on my own. My brothers didn't really do it. Like they were good at sports and they played and all that, but like I just wanted mastery and there was no reason for it that I knew of. That's just what I wanted. And I loved hoops and that's just what I was doing. And so I think all that independence, like working on my own and realizing like, oh, I can do this. Oh, I can learn that. Oh, I saw that guy do it. I can do it. I think it allowed me to be independent and trust myself, I think. And so when I actually did go to Kenya, for example, like, dude, there was a book, I can't remember what it's called, The Crucible, maybe, The Mettle of a Man. My teacher would always talk about this, what's the mettle of a man, right? And I realized like we can endure so much more than we think. And if I and what I would always tell people, even today, if somebody asked me, I'm like, listen, I went to Kenya, and I'm like, if I can make it through Kenya in the bush, and I had no money, I had no resources, I didn't know what I was doing, I couldn't speak the language. I'm like, if I can make it through that, I can make it through anything. And now my wife and I talk about if we can make it through adoption in Congo, people don't realize how crazy Congo is. At every level, it's crazy. We're like, man, we can make it through anything. And so I've had a lot of these, if I can make it through failure of a business and all these like really these hard situations, I'm like, if I can come back from that, like I can come back from anything. And so I think now, I think that gave me a bit of an edge, and I think I had the confidence there. So I think I'm just more like kind of strategic, and I'm kind of looking down the road. And I think if my mind agrees and I can get past the roadblocks in my mind, boom, I'm good. I'm sold, and I just go for it. And so, but I have to agree to that part first. And so that's the part that's sometimes hard because it's not so much the fear. It's does this make sense? Okay. What about this? What about that? Okay. I've thought through all of this. All right, good. Makes sense. Trust yourself or trust the process or just go. And so, there is crazy value. There's something about that. I don't know where it came from. But I think something to do with all those days where I just practiced and learned and figured it out and got really good and mastered something. It gave me confidence to say, hey, I can go do that in other areas of my life too, I think. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I feel like it sounds like I don't know if you realized it in hindsight or you sort of realized it at a younger age. For me, it seems like it's more hindsight and it really seems like it's developed over the last couple of years where, you know, I've sort of had this like people have told me I've had this like identity that I can get above average at like anything. Like everybody can count on me to be above average at anything, but like mastery, there's only like a couple things. And I've always like wondered like, well, why is that? And as I look back now, it's like similar to you, I've come across a thing, whatever it is, it was maybe a motocross or wrestling or something. And I just like hyper fixate on it and just like fall in love with it. And when I get above average, like usually I'd kind of drop it and go to something else. But what it developed in me is a confidence that like, dude, I can get good at anything. And so like right now in business, if I struggle at something initially, like I'm kind of like, oh man, this is tough. And then more and more as I develop, very quickly, I'm like, well, I can get good at this. We just need to do it more. And I, take where I was in business 3 years ago, that process was a lot slower. Like maybe, let's say I'd have a bad hire or something, and maybe I'd just like be really beat up for a while, and then I'd do it again. Whereas now it's like, if I have a bad hire, like I don't get beat up about it. I'm just like, oh, I guess I need to get better at that. Let's just do it more or whatever. So that completely resonates with me, the way that you're saying, like you realize that, like you just. you built this confidence that like you can get good at anything. It's just about repetition. I guess that's what it sounds like for you, and that's what it is for me. Absolutely,
it is. It's repetition, and it's the other thing too is I would say this. I've always said this. I'm like, I've never felt like I'm the smartest guy in the room, but I will outwork anybody, and
that's good.
So I've always felt, it's funny, I was never in the military or law enforcement, but there was a time when I finished college after 9/11 happened. And then the whole, 2003, I was very, very close. I was talking, regularly to the recruiters in the military. And, I was very, very close to signing up. And, the reason I say that is because I've always felt like this guy in Kenya who I went, he was a warrior, man. I've always felt that warrior spirit. So even though I've never been in the military, I like when I'm in Kenya and I'm at my friend's house and we're like hiking, we're going back, back country, up and down the mountains and the hills. He's like, "Oh man, you need water. You need a break." I'm like, no. I'm going to keep going, man. I'm like, let's go. I'm good. And like, I've always had that. I'm an ox. That's how I feel. And so I'm a workhorse. And so it's kind of interesting because I love working in general, but it's different because when I first, for a long time, I thought I was going to do something where I was an ox, like carrying things. Or when I was in Kenya, they're like, "Oh, you're not the average Mzungu, the average white guy." They're like, "Oh, they need sunscreen and they need hats and they need clothes." I'm like, "I'm not that, man." I'm like, "Let's go." Yeah. I'm like, "Let's do this." And so I've always felt that like warrior spirit. I've always felt that like that ability to outwork anybody, whether it was physical labor. Even today, my kids are like, dude, like, my son's like, "Dad, like, why do you work out all the time?" I'm like, I have to do this. If I don't work out, my day is not complete. So anyways, all that to say, man, like I think, yes, the repetition builds confidence, and then outworking people, being willing to do the things other people aren't willing to do, or when they want to be comfortable and you're just like, no, I just got to keep going. I got to keep going. And so that repetition and that hard work leads to mastery, and it can happen really, really fast. And so I like you, I feel like I can do that in any area. And so that actually brings up the next question for me, which is, okay, there's all these people out there shoving business ideas. Oh, you should do real estate. Oh, go start a laundromat. Go do all these things. So you know what? The hardest part that I found when I first started real estate, well, should I do land or should I do wholesaling or apartments or flipping houses? And fortunately, it took me 2 years to really make any money doing this. And I kind of delved in and went into these different things. I'm like, oh man, I can make money in all of them. The one thing that I've been really good about the last 4 years is really just trying to focus. I do too much for sure, but I haven't strayed a lot. I've done the main thing that I've done. And, the flipping houses, the assigning properties, buying rentals, we've been really, really good finding deals. That's what I'm good at. And so I've never really left that. That's been a focus. And so one thing that I would tell people is, the challenge is there's all these shiny objects. Oh, start this other business. Oh, you don't have to put that much work in. This guy's making so much money. And it's all comparative. It's what someone else wants to do. Oh, you got to scale. And I hate all of that. And what I've always said is, no. Number one, I don't want to go hire people. Well, I ended up hiring people because I realized, shoot, the direction that I'm going, I have to hire people. But I overpay people. I hire the people that I like. I don't want to have a ton of turnover. I have the culture that I want to have. And so there's a lot of people who are like, oh, let's just hire the lowest cost people, or if they leave, oh, who cares? And I'm like, no. I'm trying to build a family. I'm trying to build something where I don't have to constantly have that churn. And so that's one thing. Okay, if you're going to go that direction, create a culture that you love. It's got to be a great culture. But even more important is choose the right boat, right? Choose the right path, because do I want to go and do a laundry business where I'm dealing with all sorts of little problems? Or like Alex Hermosi says, and I love this, sell to the rich. Go find things where you're selling to the rich. And so what I've realized in real estate, even here, it's so crazy. So I go find this piece of property that I buy for $500. I try to sell it. It's probably worth like 10 grand. I have a hard time finding a buyer for 5,000 who has the cash. What I've found is, and this is crazy because it just took me years to figure this out, but even in real estate, now I'm like, okay, I'm finding that where my bread and butter is finding the deals. But instead of trying to do the $5,000, $10,000 assignments and these low flips, okay, what's the best use of my time? How could I find fewer deals, right? Because everyone's like, oh, let's get to 100 deals. I was that guy a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no. Let's do maybe 10 deals and let's make like 400 to $1 million per deal. And so anyways, all that to say, I don't know if this is good advice or not, but I think it's great advice because I've learned from the people who've said, sell to people who have money and you're not going to have problems selling your things, right? You're going to do exponentially better. They're not going to complain because they've got the money to pay for those things. So when I sell a piece of land that costs me, let's say 60 grand, and I go and give it to an agent and they put it on the market and it's still a deal at 140 and it goes and sells and I get my money back in 27 days. I'm like, holy crap. Why am I trying to sell the $5,000 and $10,000 property? Right. Yeah. And so this has just been transformative in my business that I've been trying to work through in the last year. But what I realize is there's a lot of people who in that journey, they are thinking too small. They're trying to go after the scraps. They're going after the commoditized business that everyone else is, and they're going after volume. And I've realized I hate that model. It's great for some people, but I really love the model of, hey, how do I do less? How do I sell less, but to the right customer for higher margins? And that is now supporting my lifestyle. And so it all comes back to why I got into business was to make money. But as I'm getting older and older, I'm like, no. Forget about doing more. I want to do less. I want to do more with my family. I want to do more for myself, taking care of myself, because I ran myself ragged going after that $5,000 deal. I didn't take care of my body. I didn't take care of my health and my family, and I wasn't there, and I was missing things. And now I'm like, holy crap, it's actually easier the bigger you go, but you have to learn that lesson usually on your own. So.
I love it. Man, that's good. And it makes perfect sense to me. You know, when you realize, somebody told me this when I first started, and it made sense logically, but it didn't appeal to me emotionally. And so, you know, fear, negative beliefs, things like that got in the way. But similar to you, one of my strongest skills and ones that I lean into is finding deals. I'm really good at finding deals. And somebody was like, actually multiple people, but somebody I really looked up to was like, Devin, you're good at finding deals. Why don't you just go after bigger assets? Like, it takes the same amount of effort for you to buy. You just made, $20,000 on the single family home, but it was like the same amount of effort for you to, buy this property and make X money. We'll talk like 10, maybe a factor of 10, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, no, you're right. That makes sense. But like, it just didn't appeal to me emotionally, but there's other factors to consider. But now at the point where I'm at, I'm like, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And there's different strategies, different factors to consider, but it sounds like you're saying something very similar where you're looking at the end buyer who you're selling to, and you're basically saying like, hey, if I can find what this person wants, this is going to work out a lot better than, what this person wants.
Well, what I'm I guess saying is that yes, I'm saying yes to that, but I'm also saying when I first started my business, my life revolved around my business because it had to, right? But there was no one there teaching this. Like, hey, what do you want to create? It was just kind of like, oh, go and wholesale these properties or go and send a list. And so what I realize now is when I talk to people, I talk to a lot of new investors who ask me questions about, oh, I want to get into land, or I want to get into flipping, or I want to get into development or whatever. And I'm like, hey, listen, why? Tell me why. Why do you want to do it? I'm like, you can do any niche you want. There's 25 different niches. You want to buy land? Go buy desert squares. You want to go buy land? Go buy lakefront properties. You could do anything. Short-term rentals, whatever you want to do. They all work if you can figure out how to master them and how to make it through the startup phase, right? But what I look at now is I say, hey, why? What do you want your lifestyle to look like? Because what's really, really important is where are you going? Like if I could do it all over again, I would never touch houses. Never. I would go right into land development. I would do land entitlements. That's what I would do. I would go and find land from from sellers, right? 5 to 200 acres, right? You go and you put it under contract. You go through that entitlement process, and you're going to make I mean, all my friends that do this make $1 million to $3 million per deal. Now, it might take you 8 to 12 months. However, those guys are doing a few deals. Now, what's really cool is that, again, people are like, do apartments, do flip, or do wholesale. They all work. But what I would say is, hey, when someone tells me, hey, I want to work 20 hours a week and I want to be able to pour back into other people, I'm like, okay, that's fine. You may not be able to do that right away. But I'm like, if you want to do that, go do entitlements. But I go, you got to be able to think through the whole process, or go flip land. It's not that hard. It's really not. It's easy, actually. But if you want to go and create a job for yourself and you ultimately want to flip houses, you want to be in a TV show, okay, fine, then go flip houses, right? But what do you want that to look like? How many hours a week do you want to be working? How many hours a week do you want to be away from your family? How much money do you need to make? Because all those questions, depending on how you answer those, I can give you 5, 6, 7 different niches that would potentially be a good fit, right? And so, the thing that I have realized at this point is there's a lot of people who are trying to push their stuff or what works for their personality. And so what I realized, and I've been fortunate that I haven't quite listened to other people. I don't want to scale, for scaling's sake. I don't want to flip 200 houses. I just don't. I hate flipping. So therefore I don't. And so there's a lot of people who are taking other people's advice because they think that's what they should do, or because of the amount of money. I'm looking at it and saying, hey, I want to spend time with my family. I went to Italy with my 4 kids and my wife for 21 days last year. We went to Alaska for 16 days this year. I want to take a long trip. Next year, I'm hoping to go to the Philippines for a long time, or maybe back to Kenya with my family. So that's the type of stuff I want to do. And so what I'm realizing now is I don't want to grind it out. And so my lifestyle now, that those requirements, what I'm trying to design and my purpose in life, are now my business centers around my life. My life used to center around my business. And nobody taught me that when we started out. There weren't people that were talking about this. And I still think that a lot of people aren't talking about that. And I think before you go dive in, you got to figure out, what do you want your life to look like, and answer those questions, and then figure out, is it real estate? Is it a software company? Is it, because all of those could be great, but you have to match up your personality and your purpose in life. And so that's my encouragement to people. Don't just go in because, someone's making so much money. You don't know what they went through to get there, and you don't know what their everyday looks like until you know that and identify, is that a match with my life and where I'm going? Don't do it. Figure that part out first. So huge lessons for me, man.
I love it. So what I hear is don't build your life around your business, build your business around your life. And that makes sense to me. I've heard similar perspectives for our listeners. Once you figure that out, where do you go? Because, at the end of the day, you can't avoid the work, like you said, a team doesn't just poof come out of nowhere. So if you need a team, you got to go through the process of that. So for listeners that are like, okay, I'm definitely building my life around my business and not the converse, the business around my life. Now that I understand that, what was helpful for you? Where do you go? How did you do that?
Yeah. Okay, so hustling is a season, right? Hustling is not something that we are like, I'm a hustler, I'm bad, I'm cold calling people on Sundays. No, if that's your mindset, then good luck. You'll burn out at some point, and that's a sucky way to live. I look at it the opposite way, and I'm like, hey, So I'm in a hustling season for a period of time. I want to hustle until I can get out of that season as fast as humanly possible. And so I'm not saying you don't put in the work, and you might have 20-hour days, but you have to take time for yourself, and you have to be building something. You have to be working toward, how do I replace some of that work, and then be able to build a team if that's what you want to do. But the greatest secret is okay, once you determine what it is that you want to do, now you go and find that person. You got to go and find that person who's already doing it successfully. Because, right, if I'm going to do short-term rentals, I don't want to go and talk to the guy that's got 600 long-term rentals, or someone who's flipping 200 houses, because it's a different skill set. Don't get sucked into someone else's success. identify what you want, and then go find that person. That's the fastest way to success. And if it means you're going to spend 10 or 15 grand, well, guess what? Look at all the doctors and lawyers out there who went and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, you may not want to go through that long process, but you don't have to. You might pay the 15 grand up front to go work with someone, or maybe you can add value to someone and they can, you work with them or you work for them, right? Maybe you're getting paid and then you're learning the process for 2 years and then you go out. Like, whatever that looks like, it doesn't matter. You have to be able to go. The fastest way to me is, number one, you got to put in the work, but you got to put in the right work, have the right reps, right? And so those come from working with people that have already been successful. So to me, it's like, dude, you got to pay your tuition. And so again, doctors and lawyers, man, like years and years of school and then training and then doing the, going and grabbing coffee or, doing the tough work to eventually be able to do what they want to do. And so right. in my opinion, like, you don't have to do that. Like, go do it for 6 months, go do it for a year. I'm like, dude, you can master something in that time. And yeah, it's going to cost you some money. But, to me, it's like either go and put in the sweat and work for someone for free, or find a job or do it on the side. But you got to get with the right people. You got to get with the right person who has already been there. And there's no way around that, in my opinion, unless you want to just do it trial by error. But dude, you're gonna lose 3 years if you do that. Legitimately, if we're honest, right? Because there's so many shortcuts that we can bypass if we can pay for them or if we can go work and learn. So those are the things where, to me, it's like, oh, you got, like, dude, find a way, go to the people.
Yeah. I'm talking with somebody right now. I'm helping them out with their business. And I said, listen, I don't want you to have this perspective that because we're working together, you're not going to fail. But I also don't want you to buy into this like new sensation that like, fell more, fell faster, fell at everything. Cause that's wrong too. I want you to have the big failures. And I'm going to save you for a lot of the little ones. So like, let's skip past those little ones, because I'm going to share with you what I've done. And where I want you to fail is when you're pushing yourself and you're growing. And those are going to be the points. And so I hear that in what you're saying too. And man, the other thing is, you said it right. You got to be building something. Like, it's a formula. Right? Like, when you're just spinning your wheels and you're just jumping from the next deal to the next and whatever it is, like, you're not building anything. But when you actually are learning from somebody who has built a business, who has structure, who knows how to hire, is putting people in place, putting processes in place, then you're actually working towards something, and you can be that person that builds a company and exits, or, builds a company and finds somebody to manage the things they don't want to, or whatever it looks like. But you gotta be building something, right? Yep, absolutely. And you learn that from people doing it. I love it, man. That's so good. Awesome. Well, really good stuff, Jeremy. Well, man, as we wind down here, we start to wrap up. Man, I know there's a lot of stuff we didn't get to with your real estate company, and man, you started running ads, video ads for people, and there's so much more. But like, with all of that, I know there's been a lot of growth too, a lot of ups and downs. Where are you at right now, and what is on the horizon for you? Like where are you headed?
Yeah, so I think kind of what I alluded to with doing higher margin deals and really trying to focus. It's crazy because I spent so much time in the real estate space and lead gen. Lead gen is kind of my baby. Like, that's just what I'm good at. Okay. Like, I don't know how to say this, but I'm a surgeon when it comes to this. I've been spending hours in my lab. And so what that looks like for me is like, even still, with all the different service providers and ways to generate leads, most real estate investors, they absolutely suck and they don't get it. And my biggest complaint with real estate investors or anyone marketing people is like, I'll go to battle with anyone about this, but everyone's like, oh, you got to be able to track exactly where your marketing's coming from, where your deals are coming from. And I've heard everybody say this, and I'm like, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong from the standpoint of you cannot get perfect attribution with your lead generation. And so what I look for is what's my framework? Okay, I need to be able to do something that I can generate leads today, right? It's got to happen now. It does have to happen now. I need to be able to automate those leads, right? I'm not automating cold calling. Now you can have a whole team. I don't want to manage a team. I want to automate that process. I want to get leads today, and I want to be able to build a brand tomorrow, right? And so those three things. And so I see a lot of investors who they are shy away from the bigger things, from the TVs, from the radio, from some of these other things because they're too expensive, or they don't know if they work, or you can't have perfect attribution. And I'm like, hey, listen, the way that you need to manage is return on total ad spend, right? Yeah. And so for me, that's much more important because I've got people, this just happened. We put a property under contract where this just happened on Monday. This guy calls us to come out. It was a SEO lead. Okay. It looked like it was SEO. He went to our website. Well, we get out there. He tells my my business partner, hey, man, I can't believe it's you. It's so amazing. He's like, I've been watching your commercials for over 2 years. He had it listed on the market and couldn't get it sold. He said, I knew I should have called you. I knew I should have called you first. I knew it. And he's like, I know it didn't work out with my listing, but I'm so glad I called you now. And guess what? Our team asked him, where did you hear about us? Did you see us on TV? Did you hear us on the radio? Whatever. Nothing. He said, no, I was on your website. Well, then my buddy gets there and all of a sudden, like he's got the, the TV star, the celebrity going on. And so the guy.
The one he was watching on TV, right?
Exactly. And so, all right, well, is that an SEO lead? Is that a TV lead? And so this happens all the time. And so my thing is I want to help real estate investors. Honestly, I want to help them with their lead gen to be able to do this because they're like, oh, well, I can't automate direct mail. I'm like, dude, my direct mail right now is set for the next 54 weeks. I don't have to go in and touch it. It's automated, right? So it's like there's so many things that you can do where like all the lists, they upload, they automatically go to a campaign. And I hear people all the time complaining about, well, direct mail, or I can't do this or can't do that. So I'm not going to say I'm on a mission. It's my soapbox. If I hear an investor who's struggling with leads, I'm like, or struggling with deals, I'm like, it goes back to leads. Because if you got enough calls, I have okay. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I'm saying this is where I'm good. This is where my team is good. Last 30 days, we have 2,100 inbound phone calls.
Wow.
Of those, it is insane. And it's gotten to the point where it's too much. So I've actually scaled back and I'm trying to work on utilizing tools where we can answer every call, right? So we have our own problems in our business. But of those, we get about 20 to 26% on average that are first-time callers, right? So, and there's junk in there and all that. But my point is, you got to get the phones ringing. Once the phones ring, now you need to follow up or set an appointment or make an offer, right? And then you need to follow up after that. So it's like a 4-step process, more or less. And then you don't stop following up. And so, to me, it's like, dude, your brand has to be top of mind. Be that guy who wants to be the known company. Like, hey, if you think about selling your house fast in Clarksville or in Nashville or in Myrtle Beach or whatever, like I want to be that guy. And so in Myrtle Beach, that's where we've committed to. And so we're going deeper in doing that, trying to really continue to hone in on that. And so, that's been really successful for us. We've had a lot of success with land. We're trying to work on bigger land deals right now. And that's been really good for us. So we've just kind of realized like, hey, this is our sweet spot. Don't dive into flips. Let's not dive into apartment buildings. I'm not saying it's not good. We've just found that once we get into those, they distract us. They take away from what our core is. And so I'm good with less. I don't have to do 100 deals anymore. I can actually make more money doing less deals, but higher margin. So that's what we're focused on.
I love it, man. Sounds so good. Awesome. Well, Jeremy, man, it has been a pleasure having you. Before we wrap up here, where can our listeners connect with you? follow along, check out more of what you're doing, or like get some help with lead gen if they need it?
Yeah, I mean, you could just reach out to me on Facebook. That's one thing. We also we have a done for you TV service where if someone wants to be on TV, but you can actually go there and you can schedule a call with me. It doesn't have to be for TV. It can be, or it can just be talking lead gen, and I'll provide you a free consultation, whatever you want to call it. You can ask me any question you want. I won't try to sell you anything. But that is kind of my sweet spot. So you can find me at retvleads.com or just find me on Facebook, reach out, and then we'll get something set up.
Okay. Awesome. We'll drop that in the show notes. Man, Jeremy, I appreciate your time, dude. It's been an awesome hour. Such an impactful story you have. Man, thanks again for coming on.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. For listeners, until next time, see ya.